Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I appreciate that a lot. I also love it when people leave comments. If you have a question or a suggestion for a video, or you want to tell me how you do things, or you just want to say hi, those are all great things. So leave a comment if you want to. The other day I did kind of a viney looking bracelet, and I'm liking the nature kind of motif. And so I thought I'd do something. I've seen very similar rings to what I'm going to make today a number of times, and I don't know who first came up with them, but I really like the look, so I'm going to try and do it. It requires kind of a high domed cabochon, and I'm going to use a round one. And we're going to kind of create a setting for it, not really a bezel, not really prongs, but with little tendrils growing up either side of it with little balls on the top. And I think that'll be kind of fun and organic looking. We'll see how it turns out. I found a little, I think it's quartz with a little bit of chrysocolla running through the internal fractures and stuff. So it's got kind of a mossy look to it, and I think it'll go well with the idea of like tendrils growing up the side of something. So we'll see how that works. We'll give it a try. Prior to doing that, though, I'd like to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters. I have a new one, and I wanted to thank Karen personally for signing up. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate your support. And I hope that you find, as I have, that that's a really nice group of people over there with a lot of knowledge that you can tap into. So enjoy getting to know them over there. The other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 21,200. I think we're almost to 300 now. I love it when people sign up, and I love the comments that I get from YouTube. It's really nice when people tell me that they've gotten something useful out of my videos. It makes it feel like I'm not just kind of talking into the void, and it's good to know that people are getting some value out of these. So I love to hear those kind of stories. Thanks for that. And also thank you for all the people who bought me super thanks and buy me a coffees or bought my merch or my ebooks. Those kind of things really help keep me afloat. And I enjoy making these videos, so it's nice to have the support to make them. So thank you for that. All right, well, let's get started on this sort of tendril ring. This is one of my design idea sketchbooks that you can get on my merch store. Recently I started putting some useful charts on the back, so that way you have some extra value in these things. This one has wire gauges to inches to millimeters. There's some other conversion tables as well as saw blade sizes and things like that. So my primary purpose in using these is to have a place to sketch up my designs, though. And so I find it really kind of nice because, partially because they have this nice little dot matrix in the background that helps me to keep things relatively consistent. So this is going to be our project today. It's going to be a real simple ring, I think. It may even be a beginner sort of project. I don't know. I'll let you know at the end whether I think it's beginner or intermediate. But it's going to require a soft surface to poke things into, because I'm going to make a disc out of 18 gauge sheet, and then I'm going to make a bunch of these 16 gauge wires with a little ball on the top. We're just going to melt the ends till they ball up. And we're going to poke those into a soft surface next to the piece of sheet, and we'll solder them to it so that they kind of make us around for that. And the stone that I have, like I said, is it looks kind of mossy inside, but it looks to me like some quartz with chrysocolla in it. But you tell me if you're an expert on this kind of stone, because I don't know. But it's got kind of you see how it's a tall kind of dome shape. It's got about a, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch going up the side before it even starts to curve in. So maybe 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters. And so I think it'll be perfect for something like this. So our first step is probably going to be cutting out a piece of 18 gauge sheet and making sure it's exactly the same size. Then we'll make a whole bunch of these little tendrils and solder them to the side. And then we need to make a band. And I thought, since we're doing something that's kind of organic looking, we could take a piece of 8 gauge half round and kind of bend it back and forth and then texture it to make kind of a more, I don't know, vine-like or stick-like kind of look to it. We'll see how it looks. We can always go back to a plain band if we don't like it. So, but that's my plan for today. So let's cut a little piece of 18 gauge sheet using this as a template. This is a 13 millimeter stone, incidentally. So let's find the corner. Let's make sure this is flat first. If you haven't been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder for most everything. I may use a little bit of easy at the end so I don't have any of these little tendril things fall off, but this is hard sheet solder. It melts at 1450 degrees Fahrenheit. I use a liquid flux that I dribble on with a dropper bottle. My torch is a Smith's Silversmith model. It's their acetylene air torch. It draws in air through these little holes on the side of the tip, and it mixes it with the gas to make it burn well. It's not as hot as an oxyacetylene because it doesn't pump pure oxygen right into the flame, but it's much hotter than a propane torch, so it's really good for silver. I think it's a great torch for this particular type of stuff. Alright, so I have a little place right here. I think I can trace that. I think I'm going to put a little piece of masking tape on the bottom if I can find some to kind of hold it in place while I trace it. It doesn't have to stick that well, just enough to keep it from skating around too much. Although it does need to stick a little bit. Alright, so I'm just going to take a T-pin and make a little scratch going around that. Okay, and you can cut that out with a saw if you want, but you can probably also use some shears if you have some. I'll cut a square off. And we can just trim it down and then file it smooth. Save a little time. Went and did a little tent show yesterday at one of the galleries I'm in, the Fort Collins one. It was nice. We had really good weather and quite a few people showed up. Sold a few things. Got me out of my cave. Now I'm just going to do a little bit of filing till I have it just about exactly the same size. I thought about putting a little kind of a short kind of pseudo bezel at the bottom, but I think it'll look better if it just have these things going right up the sides and see more of the stone. You could probably do this open backed if you want. This doesn't have a particularly well polished back on it though, so I didn't see any reason to do that. I think we're kind of within size range there, so I'm going to stop doing that. And I think these soft pads that one of my YouTube followers sent me, which was nice, and I'm going to use this for that. But before we do that, I need to make some more of these little 16 gauge wires. So I don't know how many it's going to take to go around here, but let's cut a number of them and poke them in and see what it looks like after we get them balled up on the end. They don't need to probably be this long either. because not all of them are going to... We'll end up cutting off the bottom part anyway. I keep wanting to remind people that if they get tired of all the YouTube ads, I do have a Patreon, and the lowest tier, the $5 a month level, you get all of my videos with no YouTube ads. So that's available. If you do a tier higher than that, you end up getting more privileges. In particular, you get exclusive tutorials that I just do for them, and I let them vote on topics and things like that, and then I try to do what they ask me to do, which is fun. Hopefully for them as well. They seem to like it. Okay, so I'm just going to put these over here and I'll pick them up one at a time. I usually just heat these until they ball up on the end, just a little bit. Kind of like that. I'm interested to see how tight this sets the stone. I have a feeling it's actually going to sit pretty tight because we're making the base of it, you know, so precise as far as sticking out around the stone. If you had a lot of space sticking out around the stone, I think it probably would be less likely to be able to get a nice tight fit where this kind of holds things in place. I'm thinking, let's cool this off. It may have gotten a little hot by just being in proximity to those guys. So I'm thinking they need to be, you know, range and size from maybe 3 millimeters at the most 5 millimeters. So various sizes within that range. So if we take this, that would be 5. Okay, so let's do this. Let's solder those two on, and then we'll see how it looks on the sides of the stone before we start getting too serious about putting those on there. In order to do this, I'm going to use a lot of pick soldering, which is where I pick up a little bit of solder on the end of my pick, heat the piece up to the 1450 degree flow point of the solder that I'm using, after I've fluxed it, of course. And then once everything's to that temperature, I'm just going to touch it right there to where they come together, and hopefully we can solder them together that way. If you're interested in learning how to do that, it's a really useful skill. I'll put a link right there for you. So let's cut a little bit of solder. I'm not going to worry about too much about how messy this is. I can clean it up a little bit with the rotary tool, as well as the fact that this is going to be underneath the stone, so it won't really be visible. It's quite a bit more mass in the sheet, so I'll focus a lot of the heat there. The other pieces will get hot just by being kind of close. So we'll eventually have it like that. So I'm just going to keep adding those on at varying heights to give it some variety. We'll see how that looks. I was just thinking I might curl the wires underneath at the end. We'll see how that looks too. So maybe that'll make it look pretty cool. Okay, let's get those ones soldered on. Got a little overzealous on that heat there. I may have to use the rotary tool a little bit on the bottom, but yeah, that'll work, I think. So let's just keep working our way around. I'm going to make some more of these little guys, and then I'll be back. I have, I think, probably enough on there. I just need to get the rest of them soldered on, so we'll see if we can do that without turning anything into a puddle or anything. I think there's 3 left over here. Let's pull it out and see whether we got them all. We're just going to take a whole plug right out of there, I guess. I think that's going to be pretty cool. So let me cut these off a little shorter. So the possibility is I could bend these down underneath and solder them the rest of the way under like that. If I can figure out a way to get them to lay down nice. That's close. I'm gonna have to go with this one probably. We just set it on top of my little disc cutter here, and let's use my little chasing hammer kind of. Okay, so what if I push these down into magnesium block like that, and then see if we can't get a little solder in there. So I think I'm gonna, after I put the band on here, after we make that, probably gonna have to take a burr and run at the very base of these things just so I can get that down there completely flat on the bottom, because it's going to be tight in there. When I go to stick this in there, it's going to be I just may have to fiddle with it to get it all the way down to the bottom there. So. Oh, that one's broken. See if we can fix that. So I'm going to flux this, I'm going to flux that, I'm going to pick up a little bit of solder on the bottom here, heat this whole thing, and then plop it down there. Hopefully. I just melted a bit of solder on the bottom there. Alright, so I have a piece of 8 gauge half round, 3.25 millimeters, and I cut it pretty close to about size 8.5. And I think I want to bend it sideways a few times so that it gets some waviness to it. Not too much, just a little bit. You could just do a plain band on this if you wanted to. I just thought I'd try and do something fancy. Fancy. So let's see if we can do some texturing this way. So I'm going to use the edge of my chasing hammer here. That's kind of nice and random. I like it. Let's also work harden it quite a bit. let's anneal it to soften it just a skosh. brings it to about an 8. So now let's, I'm going to file a flat spot on this so I can solder it right down in there like that. It should work pretty well, hopefully. I think I'm going to use a little easy solder here, just to be safe. But I'm going to flux it too. And you know, if I get it hot enough and nothing's going bad, the hard solder that's on the back should stick it in. We can try that first if we want. I just don't want anything to fall off. Feels like it's on there solidly. Looks like it's on there solidly. Those are all still cool. Alright, so I'm going to pickle that. Like I said, I'm going to probably use a little, maybe a diamond burr or a ball burr at the base of that, just to make sure the solder hasn't gone in too far to make it impossible to get the stone in there. So I'll do that, and then I'll be back and we'll set that stone. Okay, so I have this pretty much cleaned up. A little polishing compound in the nooks and crannies still. Sometimes it's hard to get all that out of there. So we just need to put this in here, make sure it's sitting down nicely. And I think while I'm pushing down with my hand, I'm just going to kind of move some of these inwards a little bit. And then I'm going to use the thick flat side of this just to kind of push those in a little bit. Okay, so I think that's fun. That's kind of what I had in mind. Got a little bit of a texture on the outside here. I might re-tap some of that in there to make it a little bit more distinctive, and then I'll get some pictures and put them out here. So I think I'm pleased with this one. You tell me what you think. I'm always curious to hear what people's opinions are. Okay, well that was the tendril setting, and I'm not sure if that's what we're going to end up calling it, but that's what it looks like to me. So if you enjoyed watching the video, I'd love it if you'd hit the like button. That really helps to get my channel promoted. And I'd also love it if you'd go back and check out my main channel page. I have been doing this for about 3¼ years now, I think, 3 videos per week. And so I've accumulated almost 500 videos over there. So there's a lot of content, lots of different project ideas, information about tools. Things are set up into playlists of different skill levels. So there's a lot of content over there that I think you'll find really useful. So check those out, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the video description down below. There's some important links there. There's a link to buy my ebooks. I have a 2024 one and a 2023 one, each one which details each of the videos I did during those years. And with a link to each of the videos, as well as additional information, including skill levels, materials lists, extra information about the project, things I learned while I was doing it. All that kind of information is useful, I think. So get yourself one of those or both of those. There's a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that community. It's a nice group of people with a lot of talent. They make some really pretty stuff, and I love seeing what they make. And it's nice to chat about jewelry with them. So check that out. And finally, there's a link to my merch store. If you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea books I talked about at the beginning, I find those invaluable. So there's also other merch there too if you want to check out some mugs or some magnets or a t-shirt or something. So get yourself a nice present. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care. Happy silversmithing.